The U.S. has withdrawn from the UN Human Rights Council, calling it an enabler of human rights abuse. In a joint presser on Tuesday evening, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and U.S. Ambassador to the UN Nikki Haley declared America's official withdrawal, describing the Human Rights Council as a protector of human rights abusers and a cesspool of political bias. The announcement comes at a time when the U.S. itself faces criticism over its handling of child migrants.
For too long, the Human Rights Council has been a protector of human rights abusers and a cesspool of political bias. Regrettably, it is now clear that our call for reform was not heeded. Human rights abusers continue to serve on and be elected to the Council. The world's most inhumane regimes continue to escape scrutiny. And the Council continues politicizing and scapegoating of countries with positive human rights records in an attempt to distract from the abusers in their ranks. Therefore, as we said we would do a year ago, if we did not see any progress, the United States is officially withdrawing from the UN Human Rights Council.
Frank Ucciardo says that decision was very much expected.
U.S. Ambassador Nikki Haley was the attack dog of the Trump administration, presenting their decision to withdraw from the UN Human Rights Council. Basically, the ambassador pointed out that one of the reasons they were withdrawing from the council was because of some of its members, that being one country in particular, the Democratic Republic of Congo, which had one of the world's worst human rights records. Of course, she pointed out the anti-bias Israel sentiment on the Human Rights Council. She called it politically motivated. And she said that the U.S. will not give the Human Rights Council credibility. Now, this was a decision that everybody did expect here at the UN. It was long signaled, even as soon as Donald Trump got into the White House. So basically, no one here was expecting anything different. Early last week, we were all hearing that this was going to be happening. And, you know, she does not get a lot of support from the permanent 5 members of the council surrounding her on this issue, because they see the Human Rights Council as a very significant body. But we also have to remember that the Human Rights Council has been very critical of the U.S. over the last day or so. We had the High Commissioner of the Human Rights Council criticizing the Trump administration's immigration policy of separating parents from their undocumented children. And also, the Human Rights Council has been highly critical of Israel, and they have launched an investigation, that being just last month, into Israel's use of deadly force in Gaza.
For more on this, former State Department official Jeff Stacey joins us live now from Washington. Jeffrey, just to start off, your reaction to this?
Well, it comes as no surprise, but the timing of it is really rather remarkable, given the fact that the U.S. right now is being accused of violating human rights repeatedly and systematically, with the issue with ICE, the Immigration Service, with immigrants coming in from Latin America over the U.S. southern border. So this has the appearances of a bit of a red herring on the part of the Trump administration.
So why do you think now?
Probably because of exactly that. This is a time when this administration is essentially really in trouble. It had 2 what might be described as disappointing summits, one with the G7 and also in Singapore related to North Korea. The U.S. is accused of alienating its allies and then basically giving away concessions to the North Koreans without getting anything concrete in return. The president and the administration, Secretary of State Pompeo, returned to Washington, and the #1 issue is U.S. being accused of violating human rights. So it seems like a good time to distract some attention.
What do you think? I mean, we knew that this was maybe a possibility going down the road. As you mentioned, it didn't come as a surprise. But what do you think it would have taken for the U.S. to stay?
Well, there's some interesting history here because, of course, when this UN human rights body, the Human Rights Council specifically, was created in 2006, it took the place of the Human Rights Commission that had been discredited because a lot of its members were accused of being repeated human rights violators. So it was the Obama administration in 2009 that took the U.S. back in. It has served 2 terms, and it just got elected to another term. And really, this new body is, on the one hand, beginning to be accused of the same things the former body was. But specifically, the U.S. has some issues with regard to the treatment of Israel, it claims. And in light of recent events and things that have been happening there between the Palestinians and the Israelis, there's a lot of controversy. And the U.S. feels that this permanent standing committee issue on the agenda of the Human Rights Council, which causes Israel to be regularly reviewed by the Council, is what they object to.
Well, and again, on that, Israel has the most complaints out of any other country on that list by far. But the UN Human Rights Chief is saying, he just tweeted that it's disappointing, not surprising that the U.S. is withdrawing, but it's also adding that it really does more harm. Here it is. Given the state of human rights in today's world, the U.S. should be stepping up, not stepping back. What do you think the fallout from all of this is?
Well, that statement I would have to agree with. The U.S. should be stepping up. It should be stepping up with its own policies here at home with regard to immigration and separating children from their families, number one. But it also should be standing up for human rights around the world, and that includes, here's another thing that this administration actually might not be so worth criticizing about, and that is the objections that the U.S. has about the fact that this body has not really held Venezuela to account for its human rights violations. Now, this is a political body in the UN system, and it makes mistakes occasionally. There are lots of deliberations. Politics is always involved. But here, there's a little more solid ground for this administration.
All right, Jeff Stacey, former State Department official, joining us from Washington. Thank you.